Hello to all our Perth viewers. The following show is coming to you live from Melbourne. And this week, the CEO of Muffin Break slammed millennials for not wanting to work for free. We now cross to spokesperson Honey Crumble, who is here to explain the comments. Hi, Honey.
Hi, May. What our CEO meant to say was that here at Muffin Break, we believe in good old-fashioned values. Kids these days are so obsessed with their boom boxes and MySpaces that they somehow feel that they've earned payment in exchange for time and labour. It's all about sacrifice, May. I mean, Peter here is 7 years into his internship, still living at home, and if he keeps his head down, his dedication won't be overlooked or exploited.
Miss Crumble?
Yes?
Can I have a break, please? I've been sweeping for 9 hours.
Not yet, Peter.
It's Toby.
One moment, May. What have I told you about talking back? I will be reporting you to your parents. That'll be 1 more year without pay, Peter. Now, say thank you, Mrs. Crumble.
Thank you, Mrs. Crumble.
Good. Now, go over there and cry into the bucket and don't come back until it's full of tears.
May Jasper. Making news this week, it was revealed that the cost of housing one refugee on Manus Island was more than double that of a 5-star hotel. The government confirmed this, saying that it proves refugees are getting the best of care. Another sign has fallen on Melbourne's Tullamarine Freeway. In the interest of safety, Vic Roads have removed all the signs, barriers and markers from the road. The boss of the Reserve Bank has said it's time for most Australians to get a pay rise. This way, they say, they can afford it when the banks rip them off. Not for the first time this week, New Zealand offered to take some of Australia's refugees. Scott Morrison said there was no deal unless they also take Bill Shorten. In entertainment news, sad news this week as Peter Tork, original member of the Monkees, passed away at age 77. And when I found out, I was just scrolling through Facebook and then I saw his face. Now I'm a bereaver. And finally, Michelle Grainer has become the first woman to win Australia's Mullet Fest. It's their hairdo, Mullet Fest. The victory broke the stereotype that mullets can only belong to men who don't shower. Tonight on the show, we have Australia's only accredited master taxidermist, Gary Pegg, stand-up comedy from Urvi Majumdar, and we are live all around Australia and French Island. You know you want to be part of the studio audience. Voiceover, do your thing.
That's right, May. If you'd like to be in our live studio audience, just go to the Mainland Tonight Facebook page and click on a thing or something. I don't know. The important thing is to click the like button. Cue audience applause.
Good evening. This is 4 minutes to 7 with Jane Cornish. With the resignation of Julie Bishop and Industrial Minister Kelly O'Dwyer, the Liberal Party is once again under fire for its perceived women problem. Here to discuss this is Minister Stuart Downer. Minister Downer, thank you for joining me.
Pleasure to be here, Jane.
Does the party leadership recognise that it has a problem retaining female senior staff?
We're very proud of our party's history supporting strong female leaders like Kelly O'Dwyer, Julie Bishop and Julia Banks. And we've created the working group for female MPs to ensure that they have the support they need.
Of which you're the chair.
That's right.
You couldn't find a woman for the role?
We don't have many left, Jane. It'd hardly be fair to burden them with more administrative work.
Just to clarify, both Julie Bishop and Kelly O'Dwyer have resigned as MPs.
Yes, but Julia's still one of us.
She's an independent.
We still count those. The point is, she's welcome to come discuss her experience with our new committee for female MPs.
And how many female MPs does the Liberal Party have following Kelly O'Dwyer's retirement?
Including Julia? Oh, I'd say about 10?
About 10.
Yes, about 10, give or take.
Could you name any of them?
Name any of them?
Yes. Could you name any of the current female MPs in the Liberal Party?
Yes, I could. Oh, you mean now?
Yes.
Well, there's Julia Banks.
She's an independent.
We still count those.
Can you name any current female Liberal MPs, Minister Downer?
Oh, why didn't you just ask that in the first place? We've got Kelly O'Dwyer.
Who's just retired.
We still count those.
Please, what about the other 9?
Look, the point is we're big fans of women. My wife's a woman, for example, so's my daughter. That's part of the reason we've created the new committee for female MPs.
What about the other committee members? How many of them are female?
Well, none. We don't have any women, do we, Jane?
Minister Downer, thank you for your time.
Thanks, Jane. You're one of the good ones.
And keep that applause going for Banjo. Yeah. So, Banjo, what do you think about the lack of female representation in the Liberal Party? Couldn't have said it better myself. And now it's time for accurate movie posters. Yeah. So sometimes movie posters can be misleading. So I thought we'd clear things up and give these posters some more accurate titles. The Oscars were on earlier today, so these are all from this year's Oscar-nominated films. First up, we have Bohemian Rhapsody. Now, here is the actual poster for Bohemian Rhapsody. Bohemian Rhapsody being a movie about Queen, starring Rami Malek, or, as I like to call it, man trapped inside an eggplant. Next up, we have Vice. Now, this is a movie about former Vice President Dick Cheney, another biopic, or, as I like to call it, Peter Dutton silhouette. Next up, we have First Man. This is a movie about Neil Armstrong going to the moon. You can see the current poster there for First Man, or as I like to call it, Must Scratch Nose. Next up, we have Christopher Robin. This is about the guy who writes the Winnie the Pooh novels, or as we like to call it, yet another celebrity exposing the little pink thing between his legs. Yeah, I'm talking about Piglet there. That's who I'm referring to. Next up, we have Ralph Breaks the Internet. This is a kids' movie, sequel to Wreck-It Ralph. So that's Ralph Breaks the Internet, or as I like to call it, Epilepsy Ahoy! Seriously, this movie gave me nightmares. And finally, next up we have Roma. This is the one directed by Alfonso Cuarón about his real-life nanny. Or as I like to call it, we'll be fine. As long as we stick together and keep our eyes shut, Tony Abbott can't stay on this beach forever. And finally, we have A Star is Born. This is the third remake of a 1937 film, this time starring Lady Gaga, or as I like to call it, of foreheads and superglue. Now, some TV shows get better with age, and this one coming up is no exception.
Hello and welcome to Antiques Roadshow 2040. Still collecting dust after all these years. I'm your host, Nigel Spruik, and this week we're joining you from the Antipodes. I'm with Gary, a nobody. Hello, Gary.
Hi.
Tell us what you've inherited, despite doing nothing to deserve it.
Well, I don't know exactly, but my grandfather gave it to me.
Oh. I haven't seen one of these in 20 years. Why, it's actually an old shopping bag.
But it's made of cheap plastic.
Yes, our ancestors were bastards. Still, it's lightweight, compact, and it makes a damn good bin liner. Also, they asphyxiate children.
Well, how did they give them up?
They didn't want to. When plastic bags were banned, people went berserk. Consumers were hooked on that sweet, sweet convenience. Crazed shoppers attacked checkout workers for denying them their polyethylene fix. Of course, a black market sprung up. Why, on the street, these beauties were going for $100 a pop.
You're joking, right?
I never joke about money, Gary. You couldn't swing a dead turtle without hitting some low-life dealer, his coat bulging with bags. Until the infamous 2029 war on bags, when the government rounded up all the bootleggers, confiscated their bags, and put them on the boat to China.
The bootleggers or the bags?
Both.
What happened to them?
No one knows. But this bag could very well be the last left in the country. Why, it's potentially priceless. May I?
No.
Thank you. The fault line and this bag's 180-degree bell curve indicates Coles manufacturing, circa 2004. Bearing in mind the wear and tear over 35 years, if this were to come up for auction today, why, it's potentially worth a pre-sale estimate of $50,000.
That's incredible.
Yes. Unfortunately, plastic bags are still contraband in Australia, so by law, I am obligated to confiscate this bag and summon the authorities. Seize him!
No, hang on. Excuse me. Can you just please?
That's all we have time for on Antiques Roadshow. I've been Nigel Spruik, and you've been sinking ever deeper into obscurity as the seconds of your life tick relentlessly onward towards oblivion. Good night.
After the break, Australia's only accredited master taxidermist, Gary Pegg, is here. And he's brought along some of his feathery friends. Oh, it's going to be a good stuff. You're watching Mainland Tonight. Welcome back. And now, a man who has been at the forefront of the Australian taxidermy industry for over 35 years. From South Pacific Taxidermy, please welcome Gary Pegg.
Thank you, mate.
How you doing, Gary?
Very good, thank you.
Great, excellent. Now, I am so interested to hear more about taxidermy. To start off, talk to me about how you got interested and why you loved it.
How I all started?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, mate, it all started as a childhood passion.
Uh-huh.
I can remember as a 6-year-old looking up at my grandfather's owl in a dome, and then later on we went as a family hunting, and that was my first sort of introduction to taxidermy, to get some trophies mounted by an old taxidermist living up in the Golden Valley area.
Yeah, right.
And from there, I just got fascinated. And back then there was no internet, of course. There wasn't even fax machines, so we had to do everything by correspondence course, which was the old snail mail.
Yeah.
And I learnt at the age of 14, and then by the time I was 18, I was running my own business.
Wow.
And been doing so for like 35, 36 years, so too long.
I mean, it seems like a really impressive thing for a 14-year-old to kind of have learnt. I mean, to me, it seems very intricate. Can you tell me more about the process?
Oh, yeah, and it was like a fascination for wildlife in general.
Sure.
And the general process is to remove all the skin, whether it be a bird or a mammal, remove the skin, preserve it, and we make a artificial body, and we mount that preserved skin back over the body, and it's all wide and it has the eyes in it, and try to get into a lifelike position such as the specimens here.
Yeah,
So
sure.
that's what we try to do.
That's amazing. So, I mean, is it more difficult if you have larger animals? I mean, for example, if I wanted to have Banjo stuffed, is that like is that a complicated thing to achieve?
We'd
or
have
is
to
that...
work out a price, of course, but it could be done.
Sure, sure. I mean, we'd
Yeah.
have to find a naturalistic position for him. If I wanted him sort of trapped in a glass box forever, is that doable?
Oh, of course, yeah. They're actually mounted human beings overseas, so...
Wow, really?
Yeah, there are records of some of the early examples of human beings, and well, Walt Disney's cryovac sort of thing is in
That's true.
like in a preserved state. So
Yeah.
so yeah,
Oh,
so
good.
it does happen.
And so is it, I mean, are there animals that are more difficult to preserve than others? Like a bird's easier? Is that why you've done a kookaburra?
Oh, the birds are generally a good subject to work with because of the feathers and everything else that can cover any of your mistakes.
Right.
The fish would probably be the hardest with the detail that you've got to put into fish, and the painting, the colours, because all that fades away with a specimen when it passes on. So all those colours that you'll see on a fish in a museum, they've all been reproduced with paints and all sorts of techniques to make them look lifelike.
Yeah, and I would imagine that the skin on a fish is quite delicate as well.
Yep, and in some of those instances they do reproductions in fiberglass simply because they're unable to even remove the skin. So stingrays and things like that they'll do in fiberglass, and
Yeah, right.
it's just part of the techniques that they've developed over the years.
So the stingray, if I see a preserved stingray in a museum, none of it is stingray?
Most likely it'll be fiberglass.
How interesting.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
that's still considered taxidermy even though it's not?
Well, it's about the only way they know at the moment to be able to replicate them as such.
Yeah.
Though 3D printing is coming into it now, which is a fascinating sort of concept where they're doing a lot of small mammals and critters and things like that with 3D printing.
Right.
And,
So if I had a 3D printer, I could go to a website or something and say, "Hi, print me off a possum."
well, yeah, it's exactly. And what they're actually doing is creating a database of specimens from around the world, and it might be some of your invertebrates and things like that. And with that database, various institutes are able to send files, and if they want a moth replica from Australia, they'll send a copy and print it off on their 3D printer in their
Amazing.
facility. So yeah, rather than go through all the delicate process of what they did years ago of shipping and they get lost or burnt or whatever, like happened a few years ago, and precious items get lost, they'd rather send a replica of the rarest specimens. And so 3D printer is all happening, and
That's fantastic.
yeah.
So is there a particular piece that you're most proud of? I mean, of the ones you've brought in today or in general? What's the...
I think the kookaburra is pretty neat. I mean,
It's gorgeous.
I think he says it all, and it's a bit of an icon species, and I think everybody would be familiar with the kookaburras, of course. So, yeah, I love the birds myself because of my childhood passion for keeping birds. So
sure, yeah. And is that why you get a lot of do a lot of people come to you saying, "Can you please preserve my pet"? Is that the standard?
Yes, we do get a lot of requests for pets. Very difficult subject to have to deal with because of the emotions attached to it.
Sure.
So
that's why I'd be so awkward about stuffing Banjo.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'd move past it eventually.
I can understand that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but anyway, we've done a lot of pets, and of course nowadays the pets are such a diverse range. I mean, they have snakes, they got, you know, the rats, they got spiders and crabs. It's not just the conventional dog or cat. So.
Sure. Well, thank you so much for taking us through this, Gary.
Pleasure.
I really appreciate it. Gary Pegg, ladies and gentlemen. Now, tonight's comedian is a former Raw state finalist and has appeared in the Princess Pictures production That's What She Said. Check out her upcoming Melbourne Comedy Festival shows Sass Attack and A Comedy Good Time. Please welcome Urvi Majumdar.
Guys, thank you so much for having me. So you heard right, my name is Urvi Majumdar. So I don't know if anyone else here has a crook name. Mine sounds like when my parents made it, they were just super desperate, and at the end of a game of Scrabble, just being like, is that even a word? Who cares? It is now. That's how I was born. We moved here when I was 6 years old from India, so we were new migrants, which meant that my parents had to give up everything, like their family, their home, blah, blah, blah. We get it. It was hard, right? So that was fine. I love them a lot, but they really annoy me sometimes because they worry about everything in my life, like very overprotective. My dad's life motto, for example, is why have fun when you could be safe? All he's chanted to us. One time he didn't let my sister go on a sleepover because he was scared that she'd get the SARS virus. I know. So that's him. They are lovely. They drive me crazy, but 3 years ago I moved out of home. I finally escaped. Thank you. And since then, they found one of those trolleys that old people take to the market with like the Velcro and the wheels, if you have one, sorry. And I have to go back every week and pick up 18 boxes of curry from their house and wheel it back to mine on public transport. Which is great. I'm never hungry, but I do worry that I'm a massive stereotype, just because I worry that I'll be on the train one day, just, you know, minding my own business with my curry bag, sue me. And if a racist thug was to come up to me and just be like, hey, you Indian, what's in your bag, curries? Then I just have to open up and be like, yes, there's so many curries, you got me. So I said my name is Urvi before, it's spelled U-R-V-I. And in primary school, this was quite hard for teachers and everyone in my life. One time we were playing a game where you had to make a name card with a word that started with the same letter as your name. So the teacher was going around saying, you know, amazing Ashley and beautiful Becky and cheeky Charlie. And then she got to my name and started freaking out. She's just like, underwear, unconscious. And that's how I got the name Ugly Urvi, so that was great. Don't worry, no, I'm all right. I work at the moment as a high school teacher. Do you guys work? Yes, okay. I'm not a hero, I get it. I feel like I'm trying to be a fun teacher this term because I'm always angry. Reason I'm angry is because I teach English. Did anyone here read the English books when your English teachers told you to? No, okay, that's fine. This is why I'm always angry. So this term I'm like, all right, I'm young and hip, I can connect to the kids. Let's just talk about the themes. So we're reading a book called Brooklyn. Has anyone read it before? Same response I get from my class, it's fine. It's about growing up, disillusionment. It's sort of a coming of age story. So I'm like, all right, guys, gather around. Who here sometimes wakes up in a cold sweat just not knowing who they are? And everyone was quiet. And then I'm like, all right, maybe you can relate to this. Who here's life has just turned out nothing like he thought it would be? And then we're all so quiet. And then the coolest girl's just like, we're literally in high school and we have to be here. I think you're talking about yourself. You'll be me in 5 years, okay? Thank you guys so much. I hope you've had a good time. Yeah, thank you. I've been Urvi Majumdar.
Thank you so much, Urvi. Good job. I'm sorry I've massacred your name.
That's okay.
You can see Irvy at the Melbourne Comedy Festival, and we'll see you next week on the Mainland. Good night.
Four.